What's happening, YouTube? My name's Immortal Coil, and this is Savage Spirituality, the Sunday program that bends the rules of reality and asks, what is it that we are encountering? With me is my good friend, Finaldeathstar. Say hi, Finaldeathstar.
Hello, everybody. Getting more of the camera there.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. I like that intro. That's good.
Yeah. Well, I decided to actually show my face today because Drunk 3PO, the handsomest man on YouTube.
Self-proclaimed.
Well, also according to Jeremy Griggs's dog Leia.
Well, can't argue that.
Yeah, you can't argue with that. But he actually said I was probably the manliest man on YouTube.
Oh,
and
yeah.
can work that to my advantage because I don't have tits. So
That's right.
yeah. So we got Tommy in the chat saying what up.
Oh, what's up, Tommy?
The world's finest and hardest working moderator. I think he's mod on a lot of, at least the fourth wave of channels. So we appreciate you, your wrenchery, Tommy. And we know that more people will filter in, and a lot of people love to catch this kind of stuff on the replay while they're at work or whatever. Shit, man. So how you been, Death Star?
Good. Taking a little break from a little rest and relaxation from LA. You know, we have a lot of crazy stuff going on there. So we thought we'd get away for a little bit up in the desert. And it's been very restful during the day. A lot of nature, you know, like literally we're kind of really in the desert. So you have bunnies and antelope, squirrels, and lizard, desert iguanas. They all come up to you. They come very close. They're not, you know, they're kind of fearless. And then we've actually even seen some coyotes running through like the front yard area. So, you know, we're pretty up there. And at night, it has not been so restful. Well, restful, but exciting, interesting, scary, however you want to describe it. All of those.
It has. You know, and I'm probably like most people on YouTube. I'm kind of thumbing around when I'm bored, going like, yeah, you know, that's funny. Oh, I wonder what happened here. But then I saw a couple of posts you made, and I got to tell you, man, it's good stuff. And I'd like to talk to you a little bit about that. I've seen UFOs myself a couple of times. But I've never had the opportunity to like record. Because back when I was seeing them, it was before like camera phones were everywhere. So you know, it's like you'd have to do like back in the 90s and carry a big stupid thing on your, you know, just to get like a blurry image of something. You know, but nowadays, and it's not just you, but like pretty much any time that there's a big UFO sighting, like in New Mexico or in Arizona, there's at least a couple people on the ground. I remember seeing a weird stuff coming out of Russia a few years ago. It was just all people in the I remember fucking whirlpools in the sky, all that weird shit.
There was that one, it looked like a spiral, you know, wormhole or some kind of vortex. I think that was in. I want to say like Iceland or something. Was it Iceland?
Something like that. I remember
Scandinavia, I believe that that weird spiral shaped thing in the sky. It was crazy.
It was during the Obama administration, and I remember that they were trying to explain it as like a missile that got lost on its path and somehow didn't explode. But the stuff I saw in Russia was like spinning pyramids that were inverted. And just like wicked daytime clarity. And it's almost that kind of thing we're in the day and age where you can manipulate photo and video pretty well. So, but there's several things about your footage that struck me as very genuine. And we'll kind of discuss those after we play the clip. But I have the Twitter pulled up with one of your videos. I think it's either the second to last video or the last one you did. So I'm going to go ahead and do a screen share and pull that guy up.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. Can you see that?
Yes.
Go ahead and hit play.
It's not too far over the mountain there, but I mean, that's way over from where we saw it last time. No idea.
It is so bright.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like when you zoom in, it's like that same thing. It's so bright. It's so bright. I mean, this is like way farther over. This actually is closer to us than it had been. And these, whatever these things are. It's just a really bright orange light. So crazy.
So I'm going to go ahead and pause on that. There was one video where there were two of them in the same frame. Do you remember?
The one, if you want to go to my stream or my Twitter, there's the one that I went live. The last one I think I went live. That one has I caught 3 of them that night. I think it's from the same area that this was, because there were 2 nights back to back in this one area. And I think the last time I went live, there were 3 of them which appeared at once, and then there was one that was possibly one that was a lot closer.
Yeah.
Well,
there's been instances where ships have been spotted where they split. Is this is the one right here with the
Yep. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah. I have to jump down there because my computer is thinking too hard. Okay, I could probably just click the tweet, right? Okay, there you are. There's that handsome guy. Okay, so while we're working on this, I wanted to highlight this real fast. Tommy would like to drop this on behalf of Steven.
Drop it like it's hot. In a very
drop it like it's hot.
Very new way of saying that phrase.
Yeah, and this came out of a joke between a Spork and him, correct? Because
it was actually
about
Jane and Nerd Cookies that started it.
About coffee enemas.
Yes, and Steven kind of picked up on it. He had some interest in it, and it just spilled over from there. Yeah,
so if you guys want to get out there and thank your Fandom Menace historian, go ahead and send that to his P.O. box. I'm sure even if he gets more than one, eventually he'll use them all.
The historian.
Oh yes. So thank you, Tommy, for for doing that. So I'm gonna rewind this and we'll get into it. Okay.
Yeah, so this is the last. So this is from I think 3 nights ago now, 3 nights ago, I think. Another sighting. This is unbelievable.
Okay, so there's 2 of them now.
It's almost becoming awful. There was one about 5 minutes ago, and now I've got 2 lights. One appeared, and then one right above it in the sky. It's the same area as was last night, not the same area as it's been the previous few nights. But I just don't know what to make of this. I've looked up online what military flares look like. It is absolutely not this. Apparently, these orange lights that brighten up the sky have been seen all over the world. I mean, they've been seen all over the world, and no one knows what they are. It's the strangest thing. So this is just incredible, though. This is put on me for a second. Yeah, so this is. See if I can get this angle. Yeah, there we go. This is now 7 nights. 7. I've seen them. I think there's only 2 nights that I haven't seen them up here. This is in again California area, up in the desert. So you can see them over here over my shoulder, right there. There's there's one of them. Look back around. Now you can see there's 2 of them there. Although, okay, now one of them just faded out, so now there's only one again, which is one just popped out of view. Boy, it's so crazy. You can see other lights there. That's just the lights from the town. So those are the normal one. It's the bright one there. That is just it's so freaking weird. Again, so weird. I wish the camera picked it up better, but it's just crazy. It was about 5 minutes ago I saw it, disappeared, and then all of a sudden I looked out and there it was again. So I figured, well, grab my camera. And you can see when you zoom in, it's like the same kind of weird sort of thing. think people over this town, I mean, they've got to be able to see this because they're so, you can actually see, oh, there's another one coming into view. Holy crap. There's another that just came into view. Wow. So I caught that. Wow. So you can see now.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and pause it there because that's about where I caught this while you were live, and unfortunately I
Okay.
wasn't able to see the whole thing. But I remember having that holy shit moment and going, I definitely need to talk to this guy about it.
Yeah, and if you go if you go about maybe halfway through this video, I switched the screen to the my camera. I switch it to like this camera instead of this camera, and all of a sudden it kind of brightens the background. Where these things, for some reason, when you show them in this camera, I guess it's the lens, they just look like these kind of pulsating lights. It's really tough to tell. They look kind of fuzzy. When you use the front camera, it actually made them look like a little more like we see them. So they're a little more defined kind of dots in the sky rather than these sort of, orb looking things. Although it is interesting that they kind of have this orb sort of shape, when you use the front camera or the back camera.
Kind of. Yeah. And see, my software is taking a little bit too long to think about that. So I guess we'll just kind of chit chat about this. Let me ask you. So these lights, were they pretty stationary, or would they move?
They were pretty stationary. The only thing they would come into view. It wasn't like you didn't see any kind of smoke or anything going up or any little light, heading up. It would just like pop into view in the middle of the sky. And all of a sudden it gets brighter and brighter and brighter, and it would stay. Now it depends. Like usually what I would see is one light, like say the one on the right? That was kind of the main one. And then and that would stay kind of lit, and it would sort of look like it pulsates a little bit, and you can see this orange hue around it. So it lights up the area around it, right? And it just stays there. It just sits the same spot. And then you'll see these other ones pop in, like the one that, I happened to catch on camera. It's, all of a sudden it just popped in out of nowhere, and it would maybe hang there for a little bit, and maybe that one would go out, but the main one would stay. And then maybe another one would pop in. And maybe that would, so they would like take turns popping in and out. They never fizzled down. You never saw them like lower. They would just stay in the same spot, not moving at all. And then, then they kind of like, you'd see it like this, and then it would just go like this, kind of into a little dot and disappear. And then you would see in another spot, it would just kind of, another one pop there. And I mean, this would happen, over the span of a half hour, and then maybe you'd see like 20 minutes of nothing, and then all of a sudden another one would pop into view. So it kind of happened over a course of time. Like what I caught here and went live, that was the second series. We had witnessed something happening before this. That's where I got my attention. It's like, oh my gosh, there's something that's going on again. And then I grabbed my phone, I was waiting, and when it started popping in, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go live right now so I can catch this. So there were kind of like two series of events, I guess you could say, that, that night. But yeah, they're stationary.
While the phenomenon was happening, did you hear any sounds, or did you feel any sort of like electrical impulses, or was the atmosphere different?
Not with these, because I think these are, I'd say I'll go outside and I'll show you kind of in the daylight where these are happening. But I'd say this was probably, at least 20 miles away. So I didn't feel anything with these. Now there was another one that popped in, and I'll show you that. It was much, much, much closer. I'm talking maybe 50 yards away from where I was standing. I don't exactly know, and I did that was giving me a weird feeling. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't really know. It could have been just the normal freak out feeling of like, oh my God, what's going on here? But it felt like, almost like they knew I was watching them or something. It sounds kind of silly, but
no, it doesn't, dude. And when I talked to you about the UFOs I saw, I think we'll have some commonalities here. But I want to get your entire story before we go into some of that, just to kind of, because I haven't talked to you about this. You haven't talked to me about this. And
yeah. Okay, I'm gonna switch to my phone here so we can try to. Okay. I'll show you outside. So give me a second here.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I'll turn this off. I don't want to have feedback here. All right, so I'm gonna go off camera for a second.
You do your thing. That's cartoon Avatar Steven right there. So we're gonna go ahead and show this. again, the hardworking Tommy. You can find Finaldeathstar. That's his Twitter, Finaldeathstar1, and his YouTube channel, which is a big fucking long stream of letters and numbers like mine. So if you just go to YouTube and type in Finaldeathstar, look for that guy, and then you'll come across it. So again, I want to say thank you to Tommy, the hardest working mod in the business. Time to get spiritual. Time to get savage. Share the stream on the like button. Yes, sir. Appreciate that, man. We got 4 people listening. I appreciate that. Feel free to jump in the chat. Let us know if you have any questions or comments, and then we'll continue this strange documented sighting of unexplained aerial phenomena, according to the nomenclature the Navy would prefer to us to use. So we're gonna go ahead and get Final on his mobile phone. You there, buddy?
All right.
I can't hear you, man.
Yeah,
there you go. There you go. Yeah, it's probably just
okay.
a little bit of latency issues. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and highlight you, man, and then go ahead and tell us what you got going on there.
Okay, so this is the skyline during the day where I was seeing these things, and it like literally was this whole skyline. So the first night when I got here, it's the first video I have on my Twitter about this whole thing. There were a series of white lights. There were like 3 white lights, and they formed a triangle pattern. I don't know if there was a craft that was attached to these. I don't know if there were like lights on the points of each of these crafts, or if it just there were 3 lights, but they seemed to be somehow in unison, moving. They were kind of moving at the same time. So that was happening. Let's see, that was happening right here in this area right here. Now, right there is a military base. It's the 29 Palms Air and Ground Force Training Center. So that's
okay.
Here. Now I
think the Marines train out there too. Yeah.
Yeah, they do train out there. Yeah, there's a Marine area
there
as well.
That's like Joshua
area.
Tree area.
Yeah, Joshua Tree area. Yeah.
Okay.
In California. So you can see. So there's the back set of mountains there, which it's maybe hard to tell here because it's so far away. But there's the back set of mountains here, and then a lower set of mountains, and then beneath that there's the military base. So it's down there in the valley. Now the craft was over here, and it was moving. Now that's 20 some miles away from where I am right now, and I could see this thing. Well, you can see it on on the footage too. It's big, and you can see these lights very well. So it was hard to miss, and it was lowering itself between the mountains. So it wasn't really at the military base. It was between the 2 sets of mountains. Now I don't know. They probably test things over there. They probably have maybe different kind of areas that go through the mountains, or different facilities. I'm not quite sure what it was, but that was right about sunset. And then that same night, about an hour to I think it was an hour later, hour to an hour and a half later, they're up in the sky here. There were the first set of orange lights that I saw. So this is where the first set of lights popped in. So they were over, that area where the military base is. So I thought, okay, maybe it's flares at first, but they weren't. I've seen flares before. These weren't flares. There was nothing that went up. They weren't moving. There was no smoke, and they weren't slowly descending. They were just, they would just pop in and hang there, pop out. And I think there were 3 of them total that on that night. I don't know how many I actually caught on the. Oh no, I do. Yeah, because I took a still shot of them, and I caught 3 of them in that still shot. So that was the first night. Now the second night, I again saw one that was over this area. So the first night they were like over here. The second night there was one there that hung around for a little bit, and then there was one over here right on top of that like mountain ridge right there, which is closer. So you got the first night they were over here, second night there was one here, and then one over here. And then the same thing, they popped in, hung out there for a little bit, popped out, and it was gone. And then the weirdest thing was the third night. There was it was a completely clear sky, no clouds, except for a series of clouds right over that first area. So right over here, that first night, there were a series of clouds over there, like light, basic clouds, nothing major. Didn't look dark, didn't look stormy. we caught, and again, I got some footage of this lightning in that area the third night. I looked online to see what the weather was going to be. There was apparently no call for rain. It was supposed to be clear skies. It was about 65 degrees a night, so it wasn't hot like you'd think, like heat lightning. Plus, you could see streaks. So I just found that odd. I've heard before with certain things that happen, it might be followed by like a weird weather event or something. So I
Yeah.
don't know. It's just weird. Like the third night, the whole sky was crystal clear blue, except for right over there, where I'd seen the lights, and there was like this weird lightning thing. Now the other 2 nights, they were over. Get up in this rock here. They were over here in this area. So we're talking like here's the first couple nights over here. The lightning, that was all over here. Now we're going all the way over here. And I saw this. Let's see, this was like night. I think after the lightning storm, we didn't see anything the next night. The night after that, we saw them again over here. Not much happened. They were just a couple. I think we saw like 2 at the most, and that was pretty much it. The night after that, again, they were over here. And that's when I went live. The one we were watching, that's when I went live. I caught at one point, there's 3 of them, that were popping in. They kind of had a triangle sort of pattern. I don't think there's any connection though. I think there's singular points of light or energy or
Right.
whatever it is. But they were all over here. So I mean, that's a vast, I don't know how many miles that is. I'd guess it's got to be 15 to 20 miles from this area. Because if I'm 20 miles from this area, I'd say that's probably another 20 miles or so. So it's far away. There's no military base. There's nothing over there. And it's the same exact thing. Same lights, same exact thing. The other weird, the thing that freaked me out then was there's that same night there was this light that was coming from over in this direction. And there's some houses over here, which is what I thought at first. I thought it was, and I said that live. You can in the Twitter towards the end of that video, because I'm walking back in the house. I'm like, oh, there's another light over here. It's like right over here in this area. Now there are some houses up here. I've looked in the day, to see right where the light was. There's not really a house. There's some around it, but where the light was coming from, there's not. And the light was the same exact orange light that I had seen, like over here. It was the same thing. I watched it. At first I thought maybe it's a house light, a floodlight. I went back in the house. I couldn't get it out of my mind, so I kept coming out. My wife and I would come out and look. It's like, is it still there? And it was still there, and it was bright. It was really bright, and it was the kind of pulsating thing, sort of the same as it was over, in the mountains. That's where it started to get a weird feeling. Like I started feeling like, is this thing like, is it sensing? I don't know. It kind of felt like you're being watched almost, sort of. I don't want to get like sensationalism, but it could be just the kind of paranormal thing hits and all of a sudden you get freaked out. It could be just natural feeling like that, but it did feel like somehow, maybe they were aware or whatever it was. So that's over there. So what happened was the next day I was like, okay, well, let's see. Let me move here so I'm not in the sun. Let's see the next day if there's something over there, because I wanted to see where that was. Are there houses? Because I knew there were houses over there, but like specifically where the light was. So there are houses over there in that general area, but that night, like the last 2 nights, I've looked to see if there was an orange light or any kind of orange light that was appearing. There was nothing. I haven't seen anything like that in the last 2 nights. There's a white light that I've seen, but it's a floodlight coming from a roof of a house because I'm able to see that. I know now where that's coming from. The orange light, though, there's nothing over there that should be. It's that bright, It's not like a window. It was definitely not coming out of a window.
Yeah.
You can tell where there's a light coming out of a window because I'm not that far away from these houses. Because I can see them, pretty well right now. This thing was bright. It looked like what I was seeing over there, not like a normal house light like I've seen the next 2 nights, and it hasn't appeared. Also, the next 2 nights, I haven't seen anything over here. I haven't experienced any other lights or anything like that. So that's so it's kind of easier in the day just to to see where these things are, because at night it's so dark you can't really tell. Okay, I'm gonna jump back in the house on my computer, so I'll be right.
All right, we'll see you on there in a bit. Right on, you guys. Interesting stuff coming from Finaldeathstar. Go ahead and add his other thing back to the stream, and he'll pop on when he's good and ready. God damn it! So we got 4 people watching. Hail to the viewers. Hail to the Fandom Menace. Hail to Tommy. Hail to Finaldeathstar. Want to say appreciate you guys coming out again. This is a Savage Spirituality, the Sunday mind twisting, reality altering stream where we like to get into the spaces between what is and what could be. There he is.
All right.
What's up, man? Okay, so one thing that I wanted to touch on, there was a have you heard of Dr. Stephen Greer and his?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So one of the dudes that he interviewed was talking about how a lot of the UFOs that we think we see are man-made craft, and the way that you could discern the difference, and I've found this to be true as well, is that real UFOs or off-world or vehicles or whatever that aren't made by humans have natural light as opposed to made things, which has like car lamp qualities or street light qualities. And you can see in the video that the light that this thing was putting off was much more like a star or a planet than like a headlamp. So
yeah, that's kind of what I thought. That's kind of one of the things why I thought the one that was closer that night was not a normal light, because it gave off a different, there was a different, like, I don't know how you say it, like not vibration, but
right,
a different pulsating nature to it. That's also, I think, maybe the first night, the one that looked like the more of a triangle shape above that was going down between the mountains. I thought maybe that was man-made because the lights were, they were bright, but it was more of a white light. It looked a little more like that could be something we, that we're used to seeing, as opposed to the orange lights, which really don't, and it's hard to tell on the videos even still what they look like exactly. But it's a weird kind of experience. They kind of get bright. It almost looks like they're pulsating. You know how you see a star in the sky?
Yeah.
They kind of have a little pulsating sort of, they kind of flicker. That's kind of like what these sort of resembled,
Yeah.
Definitely different than like a flare or something. Now, the other interesting thing is I've had people that have seen it on Twitter and they'd be like, hey man, I've seen this too, or check this out. This is like this kind of thing. And there, apparently I've done some research on it. There have been there have been people that have experienced and caught things like this all over the world, like literally all over the world, different places. One of the most famous is the Marfa lights. Now these happen a little lower to the ground, but that's because I looked into it. It's kind of similar. Some of the Marfa lights look a little more white. These are definitely orange, but that's sort of similar to what I've seen. I'd say it's a kind of good comparison.
Well, I'm looking around, and it reminds me of something that I saw years ago. I'm trying to see if I can pull it up because it's like out of a news clip, and I don't really want a bunch of, people jaw jacking about something. I just want to get to the meat of the video. Okay, I'm gonna do a screen share real fast. Right. This thing. So I've muted it, and it's because the way that it behaves. Shut up. Come on. Come back. But you can see where they...
This is the Lights Over Phoenix. This is a famous...
Yeah. Now, this was probably 20 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, I think
it did the same thing. So there's two. You're going to see like another... Yeah, there's more popping up.
Yeah.
And they're splicing the video because it's... Really, the whole video is people sitting around going, "Holy shit, what the hell is that?"
Yeah,
oh my God.
It was kind of a long experience too. It happened over I think it was like a half hour or something. That the Lights of Phoenix. I think it's been a while since I've looked into it, but yeah, that's Phoenix is another area. I actually lived there for a couple years, and I had an experience. I've had 3 experiences now. Well, technically. This is the most recent one, and my wife has there for 3 of them. So, I've had like another witness, and I've caught
an eyewitness. Yeah.
Yeah, I've caught the other one I've also caught. I'm going to make a video when I get
need
back.
to, man. You definitely need to.
Because I have video over the ocean in Malibu, California, of a craft that it was like sunset. We were at the beach. We saw this little dots like speck. I thought it was a speck at first, hovering above the water, and I'm like, what the heck is that? I thought, oh, is it a boat? So of course, I had my camera, so I took my camera out and I zoomed in with the camera, and I'm like, whoa, that's that's a craft. That's not a normal. That's not a boat. That's something weird. And I watched it as it went along the water line for a little bit, and then it lowers and dips into the ocean and disappears.
Yeah.
Freaking. Yeah. So I have that on video too. So that was experience. And in Phoenix one night, this was probably like 1 a.m. I was out. I was with a buddy. We were at a complex, like a apartment complex, and there was a swimming pool there. So we were in the pool, and all of a sudden I just looked. For some reason, I don't know why, but I just happened to look up, and I saw a black triangle craft, completely silent, silent, just hovering. It made the smoothest turn right over top of us, and
so
kept
the TR-3Bs. Yeah.
There's another military base right near there too, like not too far from, I think it's Glendale, Arizona. I forget which military base it is. I believe it's Glendale, Arizona. There's another base there. So I figured, that's probably a military craft. It had like...
Yeah. Well, Stephen Greer's disclosure witnesses say that TR-3Bs are ours, and that they're capable of interstellar travel and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But in part, they're used to keep off-worlders off our planet. And that we've had this shit for... 50 years, probably longer, 60 years, whenever the fuck Roswell happened.
Well, Roswell, I think, was 1947. I think, yeah.
Yeah, 47. So that's damn near 80 years.
Yeah. And they say technology is, whatever we know, whatever goes public, it's about 50 years behind what they actually have or what they're testing. So, yeah, it's interesting. It made no sound at all, completely silent, just kind of made a smooth turn and kept going. And there were just 3 little strips of, again, it looked like more natural light, 3 little strips of orange lights on each of the points,
on the points.
Than these orange lights I'm seeing now. It's completely different. But yeah, on the points, there were like 3 little strips of lights,
Yeah. And oftentimes people will see like a red one in the center. But
yeah, there was nothing in the center. It was all black
in the center of that one. Okay.
Yeah, not the one I saw. Yeah. But so yeah, I've had a few odd experiences now, but it's hard to say what could be military or not. I think that was probably military. The one over the ocean, I don't know. It's very strange, and like it literally goes into the ocean and disappears. So that's hard to say. The first craft I saw on this trip, it's sort of white light one, that could be military. The other orange ones, I don't think are. There also seems to be a correlation where these things happen, these kind of phenomenon or experience happen.
Where they like to happen.
They like to happen military bases or around military bases, whether it's connected, or not. Because I mean, there's stories from World War II where things would appear over, missile silos and like shut down the station,
shut everything down.
They lost control. There was one case, I think it was in Germany, where they shut or it might have been Russia. No, this was in Russia. They shut down the base. They lost control of they had the launch sequences start running for their missiles. They couldn't control them. They couldn't shut them off. They were going to fire the missiles and then all of a sudden shut it off. And they had something on the radar that was hovering over their base. Disappeared, and then they
were like, this shit doesn't matter to us, to whoever's listening. I've actually heard another story where one of these missiles accidentally got launched and everybody's running around going, oh shit, we accidentally started World War III. And a UFO comes out and disables it in the sky and then disappears.
Whoa, that's wow. I haven't heard that.
That was like an interview because I used to walk to work like 5 miles a day both ways, so I'd sit there and just listen to far out shit. That was a really interesting one. I also know like a lot of times like Navy sailors, they would see the USOs like you're talking about, like they would
USO
rise up and fucking do some shit and then go back down, and it's like the deck officer's like, yeah, that happens all the time, but don't fucking tell anybody about it. And speaking of the Navy, we got Shellback TJC. Hell Shelley. Tommy says that he has seen weird lights, but couldn't say one way or another what it was.
Oh,
well, if you have seen Finaldeathstar's video, and you should probably pin it to your profile for the next little while. Go check out his Twitter feed, and he has like 4 or 5 of these videos out where he's just like hanging out at home, and he runs outside. What the fuck is that? And got some really good footage. And it's interesting that we're into this kind of thing in the fandom menace, and there's a couple of these kind of like sightings, unsolved mystery shows going on, but you're the one that actually has the footage, because all I have is stories, and like your trust in me to believe that I'm not filling you full of shit.
Yeah, that's the thing. I always think like, oh man, if I had this experience, I wish like the time when I was in the pool, I was like, God, I wish I had a camera right now. So thankfully I've had it in my mind to like, pull out a camera the last few times that I have actually caught this thing. It's crazy.
That's probably the government calling you, telling you to shut up, right?
I know, right? Yeah.
Well, I've had 2 UFO sighting events on the ground, like you would say. And I had witnesses with me both times, but like, again, we didn't have cameras and shit because it was before the time of handheld camera phones.
Yeah.
One of them was actually outside of Area 51.
Really?
This would have been about in 2003. My father and I I used to live in Florida, and I was moving up to Washington State. So we got a U-Haul, which curiously had a little gray guy on it. They made him green, not gray, but
Yeah.
And we packed up, and we stopped through Roswell, but we decided to go through Las Vegas because that's where I was born. That's where my dad was stationed when I was a baby. So yeah, let's fucking go say hi. And it was probably, I don't know, 2:30 at night or in the morning, whatever you want to call it. And we looked out over the mountains, and there was a red light in the sky. So it's doing this, and it's flying, and then it disappeared, and then suddenly it was over here. It reappeared. So
okay.
It did like a jump.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of Bob Lazar. You know who that guy is,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So he kind of blew the lids off of what Area 51 and Test Site S4 was supposedly up to, and that was even back in the late 80s. So
right,
I mean, we had like a good 20 years of progress. So I don't know if they're still in the testing phase, or if that's just like people know to expect that shit out there, so it's not a real big deal. But that's one of the times where I was like, holy shit, that's really real. I saw that. It blinked out here and reappeared here.
Yeah.
But then again, to talk about the quality of light, it definitely was an artificial light source. Like there was something on a metal craft that was creating light, but it wasn't natural light. Like you would think a star or a planet would reflect starlight back to us.
Yeah.
And that was interesting because, like everybody wants to go to Area 51. There was that big stupid thing on Twitter.
There was that thing, they were going to rush into it and take it over.
Like what the you can't march into a secure government facility. I don't care who you are. They will shoot you.
That one. I mean, they keep that thing well. I've heard they've temperature controlled sensors, where if there's an increase in temperature, a heat increase, they send the helicopters out and I wouldn't mess around with that. That was a crazy thing.
If they're feeling nice, they'll just send out those white Jeeps and then scare you. They use of deadly force is authorized. That's the warning sign, like past the,
It's a military base. You can't go, creating an autonomous zone in a military base. That's what they should do. Leave Seattle, go to Area 51 and claim an autonomous zone. See what happens.
I know, right? Jeez, that's so stupid. There's like 3 blocks in Seattle that's like, we're the free fucking authority zone. Yeah, until you pull something stupid, and then the military won't care. They'll come and reintegrate you guys, whether you want to do it or not. But it is interesting. UFOs do have a very big interest in our military bases. The Roswell incident was right outside of the Roswell 101st Bomber Group. And at the time, it was the only nuclear weapons group in the world. So, I mean, imagine like if us as humans got on a spaceship and flew to a star in like a little podunk part of the galaxy, and we found these like little monkey things who like within the span of 100 years went from like pounding rocks to like flying ships and like almost the capability to destroy themselves, you know? Yeah, we would be very curious about that shit too. So, interesting stuff. Well, I also want to go into my second sighting, which happened earlier than this first one. And I wanted to touch on this because you said something like it feels like we're being watched. It feels like they know that we're looking at them. And then so it also leads the question like, would they only manifest themselves to people who would be able to perceive them? Sometimes I think that's the case, but sometimes you just kind of get lucky and you know.
Yeah, I wonder about that. It is interesting because especially with the one at the beach, I'd look around and like no one else was noticing. I'm like, how is no one noticing this? There were other people at the beach. It wasn't just like it was my wife and I. There were other people there, and no one seemed to. Maybe sometimes people just are oblivious to these kind of things. But yeah, it seemed like no one else was looking at, and you wonder sometimes. It's like, are they seeing this or are they not seeing this?
Yeah. Well, and you also have to think like we've been pumping out signals into outer space for like 100 years almost. So they've seen the Spice Channel.
Yeah.
They've seen Honey Boo Boo.
Yeah.
So shit like that. It's like, what the
pleasures.
fuck are these guys about? Yeah. So and this is what's weird. I saw the first time I saw one, again, like on the ground as a guy walking outside. I was in a park with my girlfriend at the time, and I want to say it was 97 or 98 maybe, and I was in Shreveport, Louisiana. Again, there's Barksdale Air Force Base is right out there, and they were host to the B-2 bombers for a long time. So those are the type of planes that dropped the bombs on Japan. So again, I don't know if this was like a business or a leisure kind of thing, but we were walking in the park late at night doing boyfriend and girlfriend type stuff. And we look up and amongst the stars, there's a white, bright light. Now, unlike the one in Las Vegas, this one was natural light, like you're saying. And it was doing the classic UFO thing where it was not flying in a discrete pattern. There was no like straight line, and it would change speed, slow up and slow down and all this stuff. And I had several, let's say, spiritual and metaphysical events at that point in my life. So I knew what I was looking at, and I wasn't scared, and I wasn't, like all the normal things that people who only watch TV or go to movies would see. I felt like, okay, that's something up there, genuine, and it knows that I'm looking at it, and it knows that it's okay to do this shit. And she goes, "What is that?" And I go, that's a scout craft, sweetie. And she goes, "Well, how the fuck is it doing that?" And I'm like, "Well, according to what I understand, a lot of those things are driven by thought. Like, there's like a mind machine interface, or the machine has an organic component that's able to, and she goes, "Well, what do you mean?" And I'm like, "Well, try something. Say like, maybe it should fly over here." And then it flew over there. Yeah. And I was like, "Maybe it should fly over there." And then it flew over there. And then she goes, "I don't like this. I just wish it would go away." And it went, and she was shitting her pants, but I'm sitting there going like,
yeah, wow, that is fascinating.
Yeah, dude.
That's interesting.
Well, because when I was a kid, I was always attracted to UFO and aerial phenomenon for reasons I'll talk about in different videos. But I remember being in like the second grade and going straight to the, crazy mystery, unexplained phenomena section and checking out UFO books and just reading up on shit. At that point in my life, I was reading a book by a retired Colonel, Philip J. Corso, who claims to have handled the Roswell crash. And it was his job to take the shit that they found on the ship that could be used by humans, and then like seed the technology into people like
Hewlett
Packard. Exactly. So according to him, fiber optics, integrated circuits, lasers, and then some of the like night vision was another big one. All that shit came directly off the Roswell.
Yeah,
technology.
I mean, think of the even the microchip. You know, there were such vast. Our computers got so advanced so quick after that time period. The 40s, early 50s. You know, you start to see all the technology really start building up, and the rumors are that they were trying to reverse engineer some of this stuff, and once they figured it out, then it was like
oh yeah. Well, and again, according to people like Stephen Greer, to extraterrestrials, humans are known as very destructive, but we can take apart and put together anything. And they say that specifically about our race. And
well, that's interesting too.
So take that with a grain of salt if you want to.
Yeah.
I love that stuff because Stephen Greer, he doesn't have just like, I mean, I love Finaldeathstar, but he's a dude sitting on his porch going, holy shit.
Yeah.
What this guy does is he takes people who are in like NASA and the military and recovery teams and people who actually touched the stuff and handled stuff, who have letters after their names and ranks and like clearance and all that stuff. And they were willing to go on the hook and say, yep, I'm this guy. I had this job and this shit's real. Pay attention. But if you think about it, and this is something I wanted to talk about specifically with you, Final, because in the sense of ancient aliens and all that kind of stuff, this phenomenon has been with us as long as we have been around. And there are two specific biblical accounts that I'd like to cite. And I know that you're a man of faith, but you're also somebody who looks deeper into the mysteries of life. So this is stuff that I couldn't talk to normal Christians about. And when I mean normal Christians, I mean like people who just they're basic,
the normal,
like really
go to church really
good people. Like they would help a stranger and all that kind of shit, and they love Jesus. But you ask them, okay, what about Noah? What about the giants? What about the Nephilim? They'd be like, the who? What now?
They wouldn't know. Yeah, they wouldn't have any idea. I know.
A tissue or something.
Yeah.
But that, I mean, if you think that the Bible is the most significant text to Judeo-Christians, like the Pentateuch, that's like in Genesis, the first fucking book of the first part of the Bible. So that is obviously of supreme importance that you come across it first. So there are two people I want to bring up. The first one is Prophet Enoch. I'm going to go ahead and do a screen share. So pick up your Bibles and read along with us if you want to. Prophet Enoch was one of the descendants of Adam. So when you're going through the Bible, it's like, blah, blah, gave birth to blah, blah, and he lived 100 years. So, we have Canaan, we have Malachiel, we had Jared, and Jared's son was Enoch. So these guys, we got basically condensed versions of their history, but what it says about Enoch here, 521, Enoch lived 60 and 5 years and begat Methuselah, which I know from Looney Tunes more than anything else before this. Verse 22 says, and Enoch walked with God after he begat Methuselah 300 years and begat sons and daughters. So Enoch is 300 years old. He walks with God, whatever that means. And we'll speculate on that in a minute. And then it says, all the days of Enoch were 365 years. So for 65 years, Enoch's walking with God. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God had took him. Okay. Now, a lot of people, I'm going to go ahead and kill that for a second. A lot of people want to hypothesize that meant that Enoch was taken to heaven. And I believe that that's what happened. But in context of what we were talking about earlier, what do you hypothesize, Deathstar?
Well, this gets into I could literally talk about this for a long time because I've studied this whole thing quite intensely. I think one of the major faults right now of the church, like in general sense, the Christian church, not like a specific denomination, just the general sense, is that they are not providing answers to things that are based, that have biblical basis to it. So because I'm a Christian, I kind of grew up, we believed, always go to church Christmas and Easter, and I believe in God and Jesus is a good guy. It wasn't really until about 2008 to 2010 that I really took a serious look at, like, okay, why do I believe this? Do I believe this? Let me see if I can kind of almost prove, because I come across things like conspiracy theories, all this kind of stuff. I try to prove it wrong. If I can find valid reasons to prove it wrong, they're like, well, I don't know if I can believe it. If I can't, then I get to the point where I tend to start to believe things. So I took about a year and really started studying through this stuff, and specifically prophecy, because the Bible is like a third of it is prophecy, which is a lot of churches kind of stay away from that stuff. A lot of the prophecy has happened already. There's a lot that hasn't happened. A lot of the book of Daniel, book of Revelation, it's about the end times. And in 2008, I was in New York. I had seen the towers come down. The economy had just crashed. We were in the recession. And I remember watching like a history show, and it was like, the end times. Could we be in the biblical end times?
Yeah, because we had literally invaded the cradle, the Fertile Crescent. Like we had boots on the ground and they're tearing shit up.
Yeah. So I started looking into that kind of stuff, and specifically like where the Christian guys that are talking about prophecy, and they're talking about like what's going on right now. And I found some people that I started liking. I'd start following them and listening to what they'd say, and then I'd do my own research and say, like, okay, well, is there a basis for this? Are there other accounts outside the Bible that can prove some of this stuff? Archaeology. The more I found, the more I started. I got to the point where I couldn't dispute the facts behind things. So that's where I think the faith comes in. Like there's a point where you can get enough facts if you want to dig for them, where you can believe something to be true. And then for the kind of extra stuff you need, that's where the faith comes in. Like no one's ever going to believe or become a believer in this stuff without a little bit of faith. You have to have a little bit of faith, but there's enough factual stuff, to get you on that track. And what I started finding was a lot of stuff about Genesis, the book of Enoch, talking about, our past and our the history that we are not told. A lot of it, this gets into kind of conspiratorial. Is there a cover up on these things? Do they know? Is there a reason why the powers that be in the world are covering this stuff up? But it gets into a lot of stuff like Genesis 6 talks about the Nephilim. There were giants in those days, the days before Noah's flood. And what the giants were, where they came from, why were these creatures that weren't really human on the earth? And it basically gets back to, I think it's Genesis 3 that talks about the serpent in the garden, and it talks about that the Son of Man, which is a reference to Jesus, a prophecy of Jesus at one point, will crush the serpent. The serpent will bite his hero, but he will crush the serpent. And there's this seed war that goes on. There's a seed war between humankind and this serpent kind. Whether you want to say reptilian, because a lot of these alien type creatures have been looked at or depicted as reptilian type creatures. The seraphim in the Bible are a class of angel. Also angel. All that means is a messenger. There's a lot of phrases. Yeah. See, if you go back to the the Hebrew, the Hebraic, a lot of things are a lot more clear than what we get now. So you get these churches that teach about angels, and you think they're these little playing harps in the sky, and like it's not. They're highly intelligent creatures that are interdimensional. They've been around for a very long time. They
like to breed with earth women.
They like to breed with earthlings. So that's where Genesis 6 comes from. Yeah, that's kind of the point I was getting to. It talks about a number of angels that decided to fall. Satan, of course, Lucifer being the head of them. There were a number of them, 20-something. I forget exactly. I think it's 20-something that decided to fall. They lower themselves from heaven, or I think basically heaven. They're interdimensional. They're different dimensions. Right. Now, a lot of science has now kind of backed up what I think the Bible has said for thousands of years. We're just kind of catching up. They've kind of
Yeah.
now started to see like, oh, the Bible talks about vortexes and it talks about this stuff, and now we're starting science is starting to prove it. But yeah, they came down, they landed on Mount Hermon, which is like, I think in like Iran, and they decided to take the daughters. They saw these women, and thought, well, they look pretty
Beautiful
good.
woman.
Let's corrupt, let's take this race for ourselves, because God's we don't like what he's doing. We think we can do better, so we're going to create our own race. They get into the human genome, they screw it up, and they create these offspring of Nephilim, which are these half angelic, half human creatures. And
demigods,
demigods, where you see, like look through ancient Egypt, Rome, they all have these stories of these gods,
Yep.
And a lot of this, I think, is based on a version of truth, that this, because I'm Christian, so I believe this stuff's happened. I believe these entities, these angels, the fallen ones, came down, mixed their genetic seed somehow with man, and created an offspring race. So you get to the flood of Noah, and Noah, in the Bible, it says he was perfect in his generations. Now, a lot of people think that, again, they don't really teach us
that it was a behavior thing, but
yeah,
it was a purity thing.
He was like Jesus, he was sinless. No. I mean, if you read the Bible, he's not sinless. After the flood, he slept with his daughter, like got him drunk, seduced him. Weird stuff was happening, then. But what it meant was his genome, his bloodline,
right?
Not
it wasn't
mixed.
It wasn't diluted. Yeah,
diluted. Yeah. By this angelic, the world had become so mixed and bad at that point. Not bad, but diluted, the genome, that to save humanity, God sent this flood to wipe them out. So you think, that's where the flood comes from. People, again, the churches don't really teach this, but it's in the Bible. The flood wasn't because humankind was so sinful. It's just, well, wipe them out. Like a maniac God, who just decides to kill everyone because he's having a bad day.
No. It's not based on older stories, like where it was a polytheistic pantheon, and some of them wanted to kill people and some of them wanted to warn people that the flood was coming.
Right.
But it, and you've seen where the church has admitted that it plagiarized things.
Oh yeah.
And we know for hundreds of years, everywhere the church went, if there was like a local story, they'd be like, oh no, that's our story. You guys just kind of messed it up. Look, we have it over here. So it's interesting. And then we were talking about Enoch. Enoch has his own book, like you mentioned, where they go into all of this detail that was left out of the Bible. And you got to think, like,
it was originally part of the Bible, and they decided
the Council of Nicaea.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, right. They took it. They decided to take it out. So how does a Christian look? It was once canonical. It's now not really, but the church fathers, the early church fathers, quote the Book of Enoch. So it's something
they do.
Obviously you take it seriously. Although maybe you don't give it the same veracity as the Bible, but even then, it's like if it was once in it and the church fathers are quoting it, it's a pretty good source of information. You should take it pretty seriously as a Christian. You should look at it. Again, a lot of Christians don't, but.
Well, I agree. And then I'm just going to do a brief screen share here. I actually have chapter 70 of the Book of Enoch, and they have their own domain, so you guys can go and read this shit if you're interested. It says, afterward, my spirit was concealed, ascending into the heavens. I beheld the sons of the holy angels treading on flaming fire. Interesting. Whose garments and robes were white, and whose countenances were as transparent as crystal. We jumped down to 5. He showed me all the hidden things of the extremities of heaven, all the receptacles of the stars, and the splendorous of all from blah, blah, blah. So what this really sounds like to me, if we're going to go ahead with the ancient aliens theory, is that Prophet Enoch was taken off world in some kind of vehicle that he describes as fire. And the people inside it wore these white robes, and they're flying him around and teaching him things that
showing him from above the earth.
Yeah. So
a
very condensed story of this is that Enoch was a prophet. He lived 300 years. These guys came and grabbed him and took him off planet and educated him in like everything, fucking everything. And he came back down, and he spent 20 something years. And he's telling his sons, write down everything I say, fucking everything. Cause this is what they told me. And after I tell you this, I gotta go. And then just like Bible says, 365 years, he was not, for he walked with the Lord, or however you want to paraphrase that. So I guess what I want to suggest out there, if you're into this kind of stuff, or if you're brand new and you're just kind of what the fucking at this point, take these seeds that are in the Bible and explore, because this is part of your faith. And whatever, if you don't want to, that's your choice, but you'll be a more sapient person having done so, because the beginning of all wisdom is asking a question, right?
Yeah. And it's, it's unfortunate that although I think it's maybe starting to change a little bit more, a lot of churches don't teach this stuff. So Christians kind of, for the most part, they don't really have answers, like what are aliens? How does that fit into the Bible, and then it's like, well, it doesn't, so the Bible's not true. That's completely false. This stuff all fits into the Bible. If you look and you want to learn, it's there. But you have to have the desire to look. And there's a lot of great teachers on YouTube, that are pastors. They're not just people like me telling you about that. They're actual pastors, right, that spent their life studying this stuff. You can find out where these things are. Like, to me, these entities, these lights, all this stuff, I don't view them as alien. Well, I guess they're aliens in a way that they're not of this earth, but I think they're interdimensional more so than extraterrestrial, or from another planet. And there's even non-Christians that have what's his name, Jacques Rousseau. I forget the guy's name right now. He's a famous ufologist that came to the determination that he had studied this for years, and he wrote a book on it. I'd have to look it up, but he wrote a book on it and came to the determination that these things were malevolent, that they're interdimensional, and that they have very very bad motives. They're not here to help humankind. They're here for other reasons, and that he basically came to the point that they were demons. And sure. In my opinion, demons. Well, this is basically what the Bible says. Demons are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim that are stuck roaming the earth, and they're able to inhabit things. They have to inhabit or possess things. They don't have the ability, like fallen angels, to manifest on their own. They have to inhabit. So you get into like the gray aliens and things. A lot of reports, from encounters or abductions, they say these things are like soulless. That there's nothing to them. I think that a possibility for these things could be biological suits,
like AI,
that are being inhabited by the Nephilim, the demons.
Interesting.
One of the theories but I think they're interdimensional. I don't think, which is why I think they can pop in and pop out, so quick. Like you were saying, you see them here, and all of a sudden they're here because I agree. They don't have to abide by our same laws of physics. Their craft are from a different dimension, that they can just pop in and out of time and warp through things in a way that that we can't hear, or maybe we're starting to learn how, but I think they act on a different plane.
I definitely agree that that's interdimensionality is what we're witnessing when we see them skipping around in the sky like that. They're popping out of our perceptual range and coming back somewhere else. Interesting stuff. There's one more biblical thing I wanted to touch on, and this is the story of Jacob's ladder, because this reads like a classic UFO sighting. Okay, and Jacob went out from Beersheba, and he went towards Haran, and he lighted upon a certain place and tarried there all night because the sun was set. And he took the stones of that place and put them for his pillows, and he lay down in that place to sleep. And he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set upon earth, and at the top of it reached to heaven, and behold, the angels of God ascending and descending on it. Yeah. And behold, the Lord stood above it and said, I am the Lord, God of Abraham, thy father, and the God of Isaac. The land whereupon thou liest, to thee I will give it, and to thy seed. And thy seed will be spread as the dust in the earth, and thou shalt spread abroad, and blah, blah, blah. So he woke up out of his sleep, and he said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not. And he was afraid. And he said, how dreadful is this place? This is none other but the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. That's actually what Bethel means. So, but what it really reminds me of is a lot of modern day accounts of encountering extraterrestrial visitors, if you want to call it that, because a lot of contactees report that there's like a dreamlike quality to it, or that you feel like you're in a different type of reality when you're next to these beings. And the fact that not only here, like where he's seeing people ascending and descending, but shortly before the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, the angels of the Lord, the humans recognized them right away. They were like, this ain't human beings. This is Malachim, right?
Well, yeah. See, interesting thing also with the Old Testament, a lot of people, again, like the flood, they blame God. Oh, look, it's, there's so much destruction. God's saying, kill everything, kill the women, the children, the animals, kill it all. They think, what kind of maniac God would do that? If you look at when you look through genealogies and you look through the groups in the Bible that he had told Israel, go take out everything. There's you can trace each one of those occasions, and Sodom and Gomorrah, there's something there too, with the Nephilim seed, that these were not typical human beings that he was saying exterminate. They were Nephilim, they were offspring. The flood happened, it wiped them all out, but there was still something after that. There was either a second incursion where they came again and tried, but it was diluted. They didn't have, the giants weren't as strong. They didn't have the same purity, the Nephilim purity that they had before. Or there was something, somehow some of them escaped underground, so when this flood happened, they somehow survived. I don't know, which happened, but it's clear that some kind of second incursion happened. So Sodom and Gomorrah, you read that, what happened there? You had Lot, right, who had his family there. And they had these two visitors, which were angels of God. The town was demanding that they release the angels to them because they wanted to have sex with them. Why would you do that? What sense would that make? Why would you want to have, why would you want the townspeople? Why would
the seed of the angel of the Lord?
They knew that there was power in that seed. So what does God do? He says, I'm wiping this town out because they are trying to get that, they were trying to create Nephilim. They were trying to get their power. So he took it out. You see this over and over again through the Bible where there's this, the Tower of Babel, again, the common Christian reads it. Oh, they were physically building a tower to the sky, a ladder up to heaven, a building that would go as high to heaven. And that's, that's what most Christians think. And look, it's not their fault. A lot of churches don't teach us stuff, but when you go, a lot of it's in the Hebraic, you got to figure out what the actual meaning of the word was. Yeah. So Nimrod, what Tower of Babel really was they were trying to build a portal to heaven, to the second heavens. They wanted to get where the angels were because they knew the power there. They were trying to build a portal. It wasn't a tower like that was literally, although it was a big structure, it wasn't literally trying to get to the space.
Probably going to be on top of a ziggurat or something.
It was right. It was they were trying to create like a I guess a Stargate, you could say, to get to the second heavens. Nimrod, it says in the Bible, if you look in the Hebraic, he wanted to become Gaborim. Gaborim is it was like the offspring of the Nephilim. He was trying to become a Nephilim. And I think he was possibly successful at that to a degree, but he was trying to become a Nephilim. So there's a whole new meaning here when you start really looking into what they were actually talking about.
Yeah.
And, at the time they would have, like the first century Christians would have understood all this stuff perfectly well. It got diluted through time because this gets into a whole nother thing, but you have the age of science, a lot of institutions starting to push
lightning,
comic evolution and all this stuff.
Secular,
it was starting to push what I believe the real history is of the earth, out of the way. So, yeah.
Well, and I want to toss this bone out here because in the Bible there's a lot of hold no other god before me and all these national gods, and you go to this country and it's Baal, and you go to this country and it's and what that suggests to me is that there's not just one group that we're dealing with here. It's either a similar race that goes out and tries to conquer, claim a little square for themselves, or there's multiple visitors from different realms. And then whoever Yahweh ends up being is the one that's reigned supreme on earth for that time. So
whoever the fallen ones choose to be.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So
see, like Baal, Moloch, a lot of these are called different. They have different names, but a lot of them seem to be possibly the same entity taking on the persona. Whatever persona fits that group at that time in that place. They, because these things are highly intelligent. They're way more intelligent than us, so they know how to fit in to whatever's going on at the time. Part of why I think also these UFOs things are more so than interplanetary aliens. The science age hits. You look at like abduction stories and things like this, UFO encounters throughout history. The encounters of like demons and like kind of the night terrors and all that stuff that people experienced back then, they're basically the same thing. They're described the same way as UFO encounters now. It's just that now we're in the science age, so these things know. Well,
so
now
we put a technological,
we're the space brothers, and they kind of fit into wherever the culture at the time, seems to be leaning. Whatever their understanding, whatever they'll accept, is what these things want to do. And in my opinion, being Christian, I think it's to try to take you away from the
truth, the light,
Jesus, the gospel. It's trying to lie to get you away from the gospel. In my opinion, because being Christian, that's what I believe.
Well, and it would be interesting to me, like Yeshua walking on Nazareth or whatever. Lived in the time before all that shit was destroyed or eradicated or eroded, so he would have understood all this. He would have had that knowledge on hand as he goes around and does shit.
Josephus, who was the first century historian, first century Jewish historian, he wrote about a lot of this stuff in the history of the Jews, and he wrote that the Nephilim, the bones of the giants, were on display in Jerusalem at that time. So these things were like, and this was a historian. This is like, taking one of our historians today and having him write something about what was going on. And then a couple thousand years from now, someone reads it and says, well, that couldn't have happened. No, it did. It's supposed to be taken seriously. Josephus was he was a serious historian, and he wrote about this stuff.
That's another reason why I think the burning of the library at Alexandria was a planned hit. Like it had to go down because in order for the agenda to push forward, we had to erase our knowledge of who we were and where we came from so that we could be manageable and forced into the cogs that we have become. So, and one more thought, because I know you have to take off here pretty soon. If you do read the Bible from the very beginning, from Genesis, it said that we were placed on earth. So that in a rare sense, there was an element of the earth. He said that he made the clay and breathed, gave it the essence, the soul part. So we're a component of earth and a component of heaven, but we're not natural to this earth. And that's why I think you're not going to find a physical missing link. You'll find something so far, but then human Homo sapiens come out of nowhere. Because that's where the genetic was changed by something not of this earth.
And I think it's I think in one way we might be kind of coming to a point in history that starts matching up with where Revelation is. If you see like the world we're living in right now for the last couple decades, it's only been accelerating to a point where I think it's going to hit a boiling point. And the Bible talks about a lot of this stuff. It says like what the end times will be like. And, you could go through a checklist right now and it's like hitting on like all cylinders like it's never hit before. Some of the stuff you say, it's always happened in history. Yeah, but it's not all happened at the same time, at the same levels. And there's certain things that could not have, like where I get into prophecy, it could not have happened before. Like the Bible says, one of the main signs is there's going to be earthquakes in diverse places. And, we're seeing an uptick in earthquakes all over the world. And you could say, yeah, but earthquakes happen all the time. But if that's given a sign to be like, watch for this, there's no way prior to the age of the internet that someone here in America would know in Japan, a 6.1 earthquake hit within minutes of it hitting. There's no way that would ever happen. You'd never know wouldn't be able to tell where earthquakes in diverse places hit. It would not be possible before the age of the internet. Also interesting, Roswell lines up within a year of the rebirth of Israel. So, which, again, prophetically kind of is interesting because there could be a lot of people view the prophecy of the end times beginning with the rebirth of Israel when God gathers his people back into his land. Things start speeding up, and that lands right in the same time frame as Roswell and the beginning of the whole UFO phenomenon. Although it's happened through history, the real beginning of like the UFO phenomenon in the modern age started with Roswell, and that's right where Israel. So it's a lot of parallels there that I think the church has kind of missed, the boat on. Like they should be teaching this stuff. But that's just my opinion.
I agree, but a lot of the goals of a lot of churches is not to educate and lift up people. It's to manage their flock.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that we could cover, man. I hope to have you on again at some point. We can dig into some of this. This is definitely my bag as well. So, we want to thank Finaldeathstar for coming out. We want to thank the chat. I see Tommy Jane Theory showed up. We got Shell back in there.
Jane.
Jane Theory showed up.
Jane. I see the chat there.
Yeah. And you guys go check out Finaldeathstar. I'm going to leave his info in the description once this thing goes live. Definitely check out the replay, share this thing around. And once again, a member of the Fandom Menace has video evidence of unexplained aerial phenomena in his backyard, more or less. So right on, check that out. And we're going to go ahead and end this broadcast, and we will see you later.